Hey guys, it's Kane here. Welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to show you how to build a NotePad Lite application, and we're gonna add a couple of buttons on the top of the application which will obviously do some functionality such as making the text bold, italic or underline. We will also add copy, cut and paste features. Before we get started though, I would suggest you to get some images that we're gonna use for your buttons. I previously downloaded these images to my supplementary materials folder, and I'm gonna use them within the application. You don't have to use these images, exactly the same ones at least. You can simply find your own images by searching on Google, or you can simply make them on your own, however you like. I'm gonna go into Visual Studio now and try to create the application. So first thing I'm gonna do, as always, to create a new project, and this one I'm gonna call NotePad Lite. And make sure to select Windows Form, Applications with the .NET platform, and we're gonna create a form. First thing I'm gonna do is quickly change the text of the form, and just gonna call it NotePad Lite by Kane. You can use your own name obviously, and I am going to use a form component that is very much like text box, and this component is called rich text box. The only difference between text box and rich text box is that the rich text box is obviously has multiple lines by default, so you can actually expand it and type more lines in it than the regular text box. So I'm gonna make sure this is quite visible on the form, like that, maybe at the center. And we're gonna, after completing this, we are going to use toolbox again. Under menus and toolbar section, I am going to use the tool strip. So drag and drop it to the form and rename it. I'm just gonna call it Tools Menu. With each menu item, I'm gonna assign a button and link these buttons to the images I previously showed you. So first option will be Tools New. So let's just name it as Tools New. And underneath the tools tip text, tooltip text, I'm just gonna say create new NotePad Lite form. Right click, as always, go to properties and find the image section where it says image in here. Press on this icon and import the new file one, which is that one. I'm gonna make sure that the size scaling is none. The image scaling, sorry, is none. It's not size to fit, so it will be visible there. And we're gonna repeat this operation a couple of times to make sure that all these buttons are there listed. So the next one is called Make Text Bold. Just call it bold actually. It doesn't need to say it's just, make text. It's okay if I type bold, I guess. So I'm gonna go up and select the bold one, which is going to be the next one, and once again this is gonna be none, and down there it should be tool bold. That was before tool new. This is tool bold, and the other ones, two more. One of them will be italic and the other one will be underline. Let's just name this as tool italic, and I'm going to select the image for it here, import italic, okay, and size to fit to none. Just find the tooltip text and type it italic. And the final one will be underline. So go up, select it on the menu, it is best if we make this one size to fit property to none as well, as always. So we have 1, 2, 3 and 4 different buttons. Make sure to double click every single one of them to trigger the functionality, because we're gonna use them in a minute. So that should be tool bold, tool italic, tool, this one I didn't change, so it will be like tool underline. So one thing you should know is that you should always name them before you double click on the function, because that will obviously create the same name. Even though you change it afterwards, it will not obviously understand it, because once it is created, you cannot get rid of it. So I'm gonna erase this now, and I'm gonna try to go into the form design and double click on it. Now it is fixed. It is tool underline click now. So make sure of that. Once it is created and you double click, it just doesn't go away automatically. You have to go and manually change it. So we have 1, 2, 3 and 4 methods. Each one is associated with the buttons in here. So I'm gonna save that. It will be nice if we actually create a context menu strip as well. So drag and drop it and just call this as right click menu. Right click menu. Within the right click menu, I'm gonna type copy, cut, just as we did probably in the previous video, and just copy, cut and paste. Once you have selected your rich text box, go there and change its name. It's very important to change the names before you do any functionality on them. And this one, I'm just gonna call it text rich. It's a better name than rich text box. So I will go here. I always name the components starting with the text, so I remember that it is something needed to include some text. But as I said before, whatever works. Like if another name makes more sense to you, then you can go for it. So this one I am going to link to the right click menu. So go and find the context menu option, menu strip in here. It is by default none. Expand the list and select right click menu, which is the one that I just created. It is important to name each and every component in here as well. Don't leave them as default, because they can sometimes take too long. Like copy item is a good name. Do it for the cut and also paste. I'm gonna start coding with the right click menu, because that is much easier than the bold, italic and underline thing. So I'm just gonna double click on this. It says copy item, go back, double click, cut and finally paste. Let's get started with this. All you need to do in here is to select the text you created, which in my case is text rich, and put the dot and type the function you want to trigger, which in the first one, that function is copy. And the second one, as you can follow it from its name, the function is cut. So that should be text rich dot cut. Finally, I'm gonna do this for paste. Text rich dot paste. Having done so, Control X, press Control X, and you can then press on F5 to run the application. As you can see now, we have an application like NotePad. I can go and type in it, and once I have selected the text, I can pop up the menus option, the right click menu, copy, cut, and now I can paste. So I can go and paste it multiple times, I can select it and I can cut again, and using paste, oops, I can paste multiple lines. So copy, cut and paste, they work perfectly. We're gonna now activate the other menu, which is the underline, italic, bold, and create new Notepad Lite form. So we're gonna go there into the program, the hardcode part. So just under the tools new click section, I'm just gonna say new form, which is the form name. Our form name is form 1, and create a new object, and then I'm gonna say show, which is the method to show the form. I will run this application now, and when I click on the new, we're gonna create a new one. As you can see, we can have multiple Notepad Lite applications, and each time I have to close them. So that is perfectly done. Now we come to the hard part. So we have to go and create each and every one of these bold, italic and underline one by one. A good idea in here is to go and initialize a Boolean variable to control the state. I have to do this because each time the button is pressed, obviously they will make the text bold, but if they press the same button again, it should be unbold. So I have to track a value that basically will keep whether the text is bold or not at that point. So I'm gonna initialize 3 different variables for this purpose. One for bold, one for italic, and one for underline. Once I have come here to the bold part, I have to make sure that the text is obviously bold. So I'm gonna type the text required, the code that is required to make the text bold. So it should start with this text rich, which is the name of my text box, dot selection font. This is the property that I'm gonna modify for the font, and make sure that the new font, which is going to be the assigned font for this specific component, has the bold style. So we're gonna say text rich, which is going to be with the selection font, comma font style dot bold. This should also follow the style of the rich text box, so it should be this text rich dot selection font dot style. So you can press enter in here if you cannot see the screen properly, because for the computer, as long as you don't put the semicolon, it won't matter whether you type it from top to down or side by side or whatsoever. So let's see how this is gonna work for us. Just gonna try to build up the program and gonna type my name in here, make sure to select it, and I'm gonna press on bold. Now you can see that the text has become bold. However, if I go and click again, nothing happens yet. Before moving into the other ones, before moving into the unbold and bold state, let's do the other ones first. So for italic, I'm just gonna copy paste the same lines, but then instead of saying bold, I'll make it italic. And I will do the same thing for the underline. Just copy and paste it, and after dot, select underline. Let's see if this is gonna work for us. I'm gonna press on F5. Once again, type my name, select the font, bold, italic, and underline. All of them are working just fine. But if I go and click them again, as you can see, there is no way to take that back once I have made it bold, I can't take it back. And that is where the Boolean variables will be quite useful for us in here, because they will help us to track down the state of the text. So I'm gonna come in here, and for the bold part I'm gonna say something like, if the text is already bold, just make sure somehow in here that the is bold property is going to be false, because I don't want it to be bold anymore. And I'm gonna trigger a function called normalize or regular text. I'm just gonna call it normalize. It doesn't make too much sense, but yeah, I'm just gonna follow that one. If you can come up with a better name, well, be my guest. I'm also gonna put an else in here, and that's the part where I'm gonna make the text obviously bold. So I'm just gonna copy paste this part, and once I have made it bold, I'm gonna say this is bold is going to be true. So this is kind of like a mechanism that checks if the text is bold, just make it regular, and if it's not, make it bold. We haven't written the normalize yet, so I'm just gonna go down, omit all of these, and just come to the very last line, and before the brackets I'm gonna type private void normalize. This is a user-defined method that I'm going to write to make sure that the text style is now normal. So I'm going to say this text rich dot selection font equals to new font text rich, whoops, dot selection font, yeah, comma font style dot regular. So we'll make the text obviously regular. I'm just going to take the bracket up there and put the semicolon, and hopefully this will work fine. But you must make sure that if the text is already bold, you know, if it's the normalized, it's gonna obviously be in the italic part, also in the underline part. So if you want to make it, if you want to remove the italic, it should not remove bold automatically. So we need to make sure that what is the state of the is bold in here. If it's already bold, which means it's already coming from like from italic or underline, and you want the text to stay bold, we need to make sure that the style is still bold. So I'm gonna go and type the bold part in here, copy and paste this line, and make sure that the text is still bold if the is bold property is, you know, already there. You can put curly brackets here, although it's not necessary. It's at the end of the day, it's up to you if you want to put them or not. So I just want to check this function if it's gonna work. So my logic is, if it is bold already, make it normalize, which the is bold property is being removed here. So this function is never gonna be triggered for bold. It will just make it regular. And if it is not bold, it will make the text bold and set up the is bold property to true. It makes sense to me, but let's check it out. I'm gonna press on F5 and come in here, type my name, select it, press on bold, which make the text bold, and press it again and it makes it unbold. Now the button actually works. It makes the text bold and unbold as you keep pressing on it. But for these ones, for italic and underline, it doesn't work. So it makes the text italic, it makes the underline, but if I keep pressing on them, nothing happens. So it doesn't take back the underline and italic font styles. So I'm gonna close this and go back to the italic and underline part, and just as I did with the bold part, I'm gonna use the same logic for italic and underline to make sure that it works in the same way. So you can simply copy paste these lines and slightly modify them, or you can write them again according to what you want to do. So I'm gonna copy and paste them just as I did in the bold part now, and I'm gonna rename the boolean value. Instead of bold now, for the italic part, I'm gonna use is italic, and this time this has to be is italic. Make sure, however, when it's the else statement, is italic is also true. I would suggest that you do them one by one rather than, you know, doing italic and underline all together and trying to test it out. It's much better if you deal with the problem one by one so you can keep testing it. So in here, I'm gonna copy paste this line underneath it and just gonna call it is italic, and if this is coming from the italic, just make the text, keep the text italic. We can now test the application. So let's just press on F5, and I'm just gonna type my name again. Make sure to select it, bold, unbold, italic, unitalic. So bold and italic. Now I'm gonna remove italic, and now I'm gonna remove bold. So italic and bold is already done. We have to do the underline as well. I will use obviously the same logic, so I'm just gonna quickly copy paste these lines in here to the underline section, and instead of is italic, I'm just gonna change everything to is underline. So this one is underline, and that one is obviously underline, and finally this one is underline as well. I will also come in here and copy paste this line underneath it, and if the text is, you know, you want the text to stay underlined already, just type is underline, and in the style part, the font style part, make sure to select underline. So we have underline, italic, bold in here. Each one is associated with their boolean values. And we also have done underline in here, italic in here, under the tool italic section. And under the tool bold section, we have the bold. So I'm just gonna press F5 once again and type my name, select it, bold, italic, underline. It is bold, italic, and underline. Let's just type my surname as well. And once again, I'm gonna select it, remove the underline, remove italic, remove bold. And we can now create a new one if you want. We can also select, right click, copy, and paste it. And I'm just gonna press on enter, and if we cut it, we can keep pasting it if you want. So by completing this exercise, you have created a NotePad Lite application. I think this is the first realistic application we have created so far, and it is actually a very good example to see how you can play around with the toolstrip options, how you can attach a context menu to a specific component, and how to also write a customized a user-defined function to do what you want to do in the application. So I hope this video was useful to you. In the next video, I'm gonna show you more form components such as checkboxes, radio buttons, and also combo boxes. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.